Classical Music Readers, Level 3, The Works of Franz Liszt. Copyright 2023 Seed Learning, all rights reserved. Who was Franz Liszt? Franz Liszt was born in Doborian in Hungary, now part of Austria, in 1811. Liszt, pronounced like Liszt, was one of the most important musicians of the 1800s. When he was 7, his father started to teach him the piano. He was a musical genius, and within a year or two, he was already playing in concerts. When he was 11, Liszt's family moved to Vienna, Austria, a European center of music. There, he received piano and composition lessons from famous musicians. A year later, his family moved again, this time to Paris. He wasn't allowed to study at the Paris Conservatoire, an important music school, because he wasn't French. So, he had private music and composition lessons. His talent could not be hidden, and soon people were asking Liszt to play the piano everywhere in Paris. He played for everyone, including the King of England, when he was just 14. People really enjoyed his amazing virtuoso piano displays. Liszt became friends with several other well-known composers of his time, such as Chopin and Schumann. The most important influence on Liszt was the violinist Niccolò Paganini. Paganini convinced Liszt to develop his technique and to try things no one had ever even imagined. Both Paganini and Liszt wrote music which was incredibly hard to play. Often, they were the only ones who could play their compositions. Liszt wrote a lot of music for the piano. Liszt was highly influential in developing the technique of writing music for the piano. In his compositions, he often used new ideas, which sounded very modern at the time. Many of his pieces were harder to play than anything that had been written before. Not all of Liszt's piano pieces were original works. He also arranged music. This means that he took symphonies or songs written by other composers for other instruments and changed them so they could be played on the piano. In fact, he promoted the works of Bach, Beethoven, and Schubert by performing their music on the piano. Hungarian Rhapsody No. 2 in C-sharp minor, 1847. The Hungarian Rhapsodies are among Liszt's most popular works. They are a set of 19 piano pieces based on the Hungarian folk music that Liszt heard growing up. Liszt used many effects from folk music in these rhapsodies. These included the use of the cimbalom and stressing the weak beat. They are considered difficult to play. So, what is a rhapsody? A rhapsody is a one-movement work, often with contrasting slow and fast moods. Hungarian Rhapsody No. 2 in C-sharp minor is by far the most well-known of these rhapsodies. Liszt wrote it in 1847. And it quickly became famous. It was a piece that gave pianists the chance to show off their skills and also gave the listeners something beautiful to listen to. Since great technique is needed to play Rhapsody No. 2, excellent pianists use this piece to show their abilities. Today, It is an expected part of almost every performance of the world's greatest pianists. The famous Chinese pianist Lang Lang says that Hungarian Rhapsody No. 2 was the reason he became a pianist. There is an episode of a famous cartoon called Tom and Jerry. In this episode, Tom, a cat, plays Hungarian Rhapsody No. 2. Lang Lang saw this episode as a kid. It made him fall in love with the piano, and he begged his parents to let him take lessons at age 3. Hungarian Rhapsody No. 2 has appeared in other cartoons as well. It was in a Mickey Mouse cartoon in 1929 and in a Bugs Bunny cartoon in 1946. Have you seen either of these cartoons? Piano Sonata in B minor, 1854. Liszt wrote just one piano sonata. This sonata is in the key of B minor. So, what is a sonata? A sonata is often a piece of music for one instrument. The word comes from the Italian sonare, which means to sound. This piano sonata is generally seen to be Liszt's masterwork. It has only one movement, which lasts 30 minutes. Since it is for solo piano, it demands a lot from the performer, both musically and physically. The sonata begins quite slowly, but then becomes quite fast and difficult to play. It took a long time for his sonata to become commonly known for 2 reasons. It is very hard to play, and it was not received well by audiences at the time, since it was new music. However, by the early 1900s, the piece had become one of Liszt's top works. It is performed often by the best pianists in the world today. Mephisto Waltz No. 1, 1859. Liszt's 4 Mephisto waltzes are named after the devil, Mephisto, in German legend. These pieces show his interest in the devil and in program music, a kind of music which tells a story with only instruments and no voices. These waltzes also display Liszt's virtuoso genius. The first waltz has often been performed in concert and recorded. It is popular because of its emotion and drama, which creates a strong response in listeners. The story Liszt used is from Faust, by Nikolaus Lenau. Faust was a legendary character who sold his soul to the devil in exchange for knowledge and power. What is the story Liszt wants to tell in Waltz No. 1? Well, the title of the piece is The Dance in the Village Inn. There is a wedding taking place at a village inn, with lots of music and dancing. Mephisto and Faust pass by, and Mephisto gets Faust to take part in the celebration. Mephisto takes the violin from the hands of a sleepy musician and plays extremely exciting music. Faust spins around with a beautiful village woman in a wild waltz. They dance out of the room, into the open, and dance away into the forest. The sounds of the violin become softer until the piece ends. Although Liszt was almost like a rock star as a performer, he stopped giving concerts in his 30s in order to compose. He went on to compose around 1,400 works.